So does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and your on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion, and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
At Asgrow, farmers love to talk about the soybean bushels we helped them yield. But all we can talk about is the one bushel we didn't. You know, that one buried deep in the genetics we haven't extracted yet. We're going to find that bushel. Some might call our passion for one more bushel, quote, slightly embarrassing, or, quote, totally cringy, Dad. They don't understand every bushel matters. We do. That's why Asgrow leads the way. Always read and follow green marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions.
On the Gopher Sports Network from Learfield, this is the Golden Gopher Podcast, brought to you by Schuler Shoes, where happy feet is happy life.
Welcome to the Golden Gopher Podcast. I'm Justin Gard from KFAN Radio and the Gopher Radio Network. We talked to hockey coach Brad Frost this week. Coach Frost coming up. I want to first thank you for finding us every week. Remind you of last week's episode with wide receiver Chris Ottman-Bell. Really fun conversation with him I think you will enjoy. And remember to subscribe if you haven't. Leave a rating if you haven't. And tell a Gopher fan friend in your life about us if you haven't. It really helps us out. It really helps us grow here in year 3 of the podcast. I want to also thank our great partners at Schuler Shoes for their support. SchulerShoes.com is the website. It's the best place to start to find your location and check out their entire selection. It's almost boot season, and Schuler Shoes has a tremendous boot selection and really everything you need for any occasion in your life. They've taken care of the Gopher Radio Network feet for a long time now. I can't say enough good things about Schuler Shoes. Learn more at SchulerShoes.com. Our guest today is hockey coach Brad Frost. The hockey team is 5-3 after sweeping Colgate on the road last weekend. The Gophers are ranked 3rd in the country this week and are in Bemidji for a road series against Bemidji State. Earlier this week, it was also announced that Coach Frost signed a 3-year contract extension that will keep him at the helm through the 2024 season. He's been on campus since 2001. He's in his 15th year as head coach with many more to come. He's Brad Frost on the Golden Gopher Podcast. Coach, let's start with a congratulations. Contract extensions, as I recall, kind of get taken care of like in the spring or summer, and then they're just like sporadically announced. John Anderson's was announced a couple weeks ago. I remember reading about that one on like Memorial Day. But congratulations, a 3-year contract extension. That has to make you feel good. Yeah,
definitely. It's, as I've said many times, this is where I want to be. And I think we've done some great things here as a program and as a staff, and want to continue to build on those things. And hopefully I'm going to be here for a lot longer than 3 years.
Is this year 15 for you? Did I read that right?
Yeah, 15 as the head coach and 22 as within the program.
To me. I'm sure it is for you, because I think of you, take this however you want, as a young guy. It's hard to be someplace 22 years and still be kind of a young guy, but you're kind of like the old young guy now, but you've been here so long. I mean, did you ever imagine, first of all, when you got the assistant job, that you'd still be here after this long? And then when you're the head coach taking over for Laura, like, hey, decade and a half, I'm still going to be here and hopefully here for many more years.
Yeah, it's crazy, being a Canadian kid growing up. University athletics isn't all that important. And so I didn't even know you could be a full-time coach. So obviously fast forward a number of years, and I was a high school teacher, Phi Ed and health teacher and coach, and thought that was going to be my life. And then
volleyball coach, right?
Volleyball and JV.
Yep.
Egan girls hockey.
There you go.
Yeah, and so 5 years after teaching, I was fortunate to land the assistant job here, and in the start of 2001, and the rest is kind of history. But I don't think you ever really look at something and say, oh, I'm going to be here for 20 years, 15 years. I am hopeful that I'm here a lot longer than that, and it's the premier program in the country, so why go anywhere else?
And we were talking before we hit record here, kind of take me through the growth of the sport since you got here, whether it was 22 years ago or since you got the head coaching job. I mean, you're probably 15 years ago thinking about one or two teams that you might be competing with. Now it's way more than that. So you've kind of had a great seat for the growth of the game.
No doubt. Even from the girls' high school game, when I was a JV coach in 1996 at Egan High School, we were teaching girls how to play hockey. A lot of them how to skate, how to hold a stick, because a lot of them were figure skaters, or they had played ringette or whatever it was. And so to see the evolution of the girls' high school game, and then obviously starting here in 2001 and seeing the growth of the game, the depth of the players, it has just been incredible. You don't see as many Natalie Darwitzes and Chrissy Wendells now. And I think that just speaks to the growth of the game. They were special. They were playing with boys growing up, and now most of our players have been playing with girls since they were 5-6 years old, which is great.
We are talking, this is kind of a normal year now where you actually get to hang out as a team, get to do team meetings. Like, just kind of take me through what it's like being back to quote-unquote normal. There's still things because, as Mark Coyle tells me every week, we're still in a pandemic. But compare last year to this year in terms of how it feels, and I have to imagine it feels a lot better.
It does. I mean, there's no comparison to last year. Last year we were testing 6 days a week. We our players' days consisted of coming up to Bierman, testing, waiting to find out if you're positive or if you're going to shut the team down. Then you go to practice if you're negative, and then back to your dorm room to do homework or to do online school or whatever it was, and you just keep doing that every single day for 6 months. And so the mental health piece was at an all-time high, the stress levels, just always wondering if you're going to test positive and if you're going to be the one that shuts the team down and now we can't play or whatever. So we took it pretty seriously. We didn't have our players hang out outside of when we were at the rink for practice. We were trying to, when we were practicing, if you're standing in line, give 6 feet of distance. When we're talking to the group as coaches, they're super spread out. So it was such a challenge, and unfortunately, a couple of our freshmen, they transferred mid-season because they were like, I got to go home. I can't do it, and I totally understand and respected their decision to do so. This year we're really back to normal, aside from masks on the school bus, or not on the school bus, on the bus as we travel. Excuse me, up on the airplane as well, and when we're at the rink. But overall, it's been as normal as normal can be, and it's been a huge blessing.
Almost, I won't say every coach I talked to last year, but a lot of them at different schools all over the country, they say, as a coach, you never want the season to be over. If you like your kids, you want to play as long as you possibly can. They were saying, we can't wait for this season to be over because it's not fun, it's not enjoyable. The stress level was off the charts. Is that kind? I'm not saying you wanted the season to end, and obviously yours didn't end the way you wanted it to, but like just people, it was such a grind. It seemed like
it was, and I thought going into the year, as long as our team is playing games, everything's going to be fine. And that just wasn't true.
Yeah.
There were, the Ivy League teams. There were some teams out east that didn't play at all, and had several conversations with some of those coaches, and it was really tough for them not to play. But we were just dealing with other problems by having a season, and like you said, the season didn't end the way we wanted it to. So it was just kind of like the ultimate kick in the teeth. It's like this has been struggle bus for 6 months.
Yeah.
Super challenging, super tough, and then we feel like we got left out of the tournament in an unfair fashion, and so it's just kind of the ultimate ending to a bad ending.
And so now you get, obviously, with the COVID year, a lot of people back, and you've got freshmen that are in here as well. So take me through kind of the challenges of getting people with a free year, and when you put together this team a couple of years ago, it's probably looking a lot different than you maybe thought it would. So what's that been like? That's been
another challenge that's come with the pandemic, the extra year of eligibility. I think it's great,
right?
But it brings some challenges from a coaching staff perspective. We decided to honor all of our commitments with our freshmen that came in this year. A lot of teams told their kids, hey, we don't have room for you. You need to find another place to play. And
Right.
we just feel like when we have conversations with families and we tell them that it's important that they're here, that we bring them here. But we have 3 super seniors right now, a goaltender and 2 defensemen. And so our roster is bigger. We're at 26 on our roster. And you look now towards next year, and we have 7 seniors on our roster right now. And, man, it's going to be really hard to bring them all back. But, you know, do you bring some back? Do you bring none back? What do you do? And then, of course, from a scholarship perspective, that obviously is different as well, because we've already recruited for the following year and kids coming in. So it just brings up new challenges, but at the same time, I think for these kind of 3 years here with the opportunity for seniors to come back, it's probably going to be the best hockey and teams, players that teams are going to have, because they've got some pretty experienced kids.
We'll let you worry about all that later. We'll get in the present, because I know coaches want to stay in the present. Take us through your season so far. You're 5-3 and seem to be getting better every weekend.
Yeah, it's been a great start. You know, as we're 8 games in, we got swept by Ohio State in our first series, which didn't feel good, but we played really well in Friday's game and lost, and then we had some spurts on Saturday's game. But we're young and we're old all at the same time, and so it's just taking some time to kind of forge our identity a little bit. We have 2 new assistant coaches, Natalie Darwitz and Jake Bobrowski. They both came over from Hamlin. They've been great. They're working with our forwards. I'm working with our D, which I haven't done for about 15 years.
Interesting,
But it's been really enjoyable. We've had just a great time, and we're changing how we play a little bit, and the expectations are a little higher and different for our players. And so we're starting to see those things kind of manifest themselves now as we continue to go, and we're starting to play some really good hockey.
You have to be pleased. Most recently, you go out to Colgate and earn the sweep there. They're a highly ranked team. Those are kind of the weekends where it's nice to go into somebody else's building and come out with 4 points, right?
No doubt, and Colgate's probably the best team out east in our league. I mean, you look at the national rankings right now. Wisconsin's 1, Ohio State's 2, and we're 3. Duluth, I think, is 7, and then Minnesota State Mankato is receiving votes really for the first time in their program's history. So there's just a lot of great teams in our league, and we only have 6 non-conference games throughout the year. So because of the way the pairwise RPI formula is, it's your record against opponents and then your records against opponents' and common opponents and all these different things. So beating Colgate twice, now the hope is that they go beat a lot of teams out east, and that helps our winning percentage as well.
You mentioned Ohio State and Wisconsin, 2 teams that are always going to be there with you. I mean, do you always kind of have an eye on what it's going to take to beat those other teams? You just mentioned there's so much depth now all across the country that you probably can't be too focused on what's coming. But I have to imagine at different points through the year you're building, hey, we need to do this well against Wisconsin, we need to do this well against Ohio State, whether it's Colgate, whatever it is. Is that something you're kind of always doing while improving yourself? I mean, take me through kind of – because odds are who's going to be there at the end of the year that you're going to be fighting with.
No doubt. And knowing that we play – Ohio State 4 times during the regular season. We play Wisconsin 4 times during the regular season. Then we'll probably play them in the tournament, WCHA tournament, so that's 5. Then if we make it to the NCAA tournament, we're probably playing them again. So oftentimes we're trying to play, or we're playing teams, top teams six times throughout the year. And you always hear the old adage, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, like try 6, or 5. It's there's just there's a small difference between each of the top teams.
Right.
That when you play each other, it's kind of like Canada and U.S. and women's hockey. It's a coin flip, and so it's going to be a big save here or a penalty call there, or you hit the post and it stays out, or you hit the post and it goes in. So you try and do everything you can to put yourself and your team in the best chance to win, but oftentimes it comes down to a bounce in the end, and we've experienced some really good ones, and we've experienced some bad ones over the years.
I always say that's why coaches go crazy, especially college coaches, and especially hockey coaches, I would imagine, because there's so much that's out of your control, right?
Oh, for sure.
And that's why you want to control everything, I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine. And at the end of the day, you might be dealing with an 18-year-old kid out there, and that's no offense, that's why you guys are all crazy, right?
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, our livelihood depends on 18 to 22-year-old kids and young adults. And so, yeah, what's really funny, though, is, and I've started to see this more and more over the last number of years, but when you watch an NHL game, a goal goes in, it's usually because somebody made a mistake.
Yeah.
Or you watch an NFL game, and there's some blown coverage there, and somebody's able to score a touchdown. It happens at every level. And so, as a coach, we can't expect perfection from our players.
Right.
They don't have the experience of NHL players, but even the NHL players make mistakes too. So it's trying to minimize those. It's trying to make sure that our players know that they can make mistakes and it's going to be okay. We just expect them to make those mistakes really hard. You know, we want them playing hard, and if something happens, it's hockey. It's you get stoned by a goalie one night and they're the player of the game, and other nights your goalie's the best player on the ice and you win a game that you shouldn't. So that's why we continue to focus on the process of how we want to play, and then the outcome is going to be what the outcome's going to be.
Last thing for you mentioned Natalie back with the program after starting her coaching career at Hamlin. What has it been like? I mean, I have to imagine it's pretty cool to have one of the all-time greats here that's been through the program. A lot of the kids on the team maybe didn't grow up watching her play, because I'm getting old now too, Brad, so I don't know how the age works. I know she was a little bit behind me, but certainly are aware of the name and the pedigree. And when Natalie Darwitz says something, odds are you look up and her number's there, her jersey's there, or she's on the wall, you're probably going to listen. Oh,
no doubt. It's been really fun. You know, I got to know Natalie when she was in 8th grade, when she was at Egan High School, and I was an assistant coach with the varsity team. Saw her play there for 3 years. We went to state tournaments, state championships, and then she went starting in 10th grade, she went with the national team.
Right.
As a 15-year-old and was playing in the Olympics. And then in kind of that 3-year period, I end up becoming the assistant coach here at the U in 2001. And now all of a sudden, Natalie Darwitz is trying to find a college and a university to play at. And we're fortunate enough to get her to come to the University of Minnesota. She never won the Patty Kazmaier Award. Her and Chrissy were neck and neck for it one year, and Chrissy ended up winning it. But that same year, we won the national championship, and Natalie was the MVP of the Frozen Four. You know, She had 114 points in that year, which I think tied Neil Broughton's record for the most points ever for a college athlete. But it's just been so fun to have her back. She coached with me for a couple years, but was in more of that second assistant role.
Right.
And was a little younger. Now she's got the experience, and when she speaks, our players just kind of perk up. You know, they if they have questions as to how good of a coach she is or a player she was, they just look up and like you said, they see her on the All-Americans wall or the Olympians wall or whatever. So it's been great having her back. She just brings so much knowledge. She brings so much excitement. And she's just doing a great job. It's been a lot of fun.
One of those I remember growing up, I mean, it's like she was in the paper every single week.
Yep.
Yeah, like the Larry Fitzgeralds, the Joe Mauers, the Marion Barbers, Natalie Darwitz, Chrissy Wendell's. Like, you get sick of them after a while.
Yeah, it was. I mean, those two, Winnie Brodt, the Curtains. I mean, they really forged girls hockey in the state of Minnesota, and it's just been so fun to look back and see the impact that those women have made.
Well, and last thing, part 2, you celebrate 25 seasons of the program. Their imprints are all over that, but it's got to be kind of cool. I mean, I've talked to, obviously, Laura a bunch for this podcast and other players from the first championship team, and just to already have so much history in a quarter century has got to be pretty cool for you to have a great seat for a lot of it.
Oh, for sure. It's, I came in 4 years after the program started, but or 3 years, whatever it's been. But it's been really neat to see the growth. But as you mentioned, Laura starting the program, really getting it on solid footing, winning national championships, doing it the right way. You know, I was fortunate to work for her for 7 years and then take over. And I'm really happy and proud that we've been able to kind of continue her legacy on a little bit and the idea that she wanted for Gopher women's hockey. And, we think about legacy all the time, and that's something that we're pretty proud of.
Well, safe travels to Bemidji. Say hi to Paul Bunyan, and congratulations on the contract extension that was signed like 6 months ago, but we're all just learning about it. We're looking forward to many more years.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, JG.
Women's hockey coach Brad Frost on the Golden Gopher podcast. Appreciate him taking the time. Always fun to chat with Coach, a guy who has seen a lot and done a lot in his 20-plus years here at the U. I'll remind you, information about the women's hockey team, including ticket info, is available at gophersports.com. Some great games coming up, as we talked about on the podcast. And as a guy with young kids, there's no better place to bring them than to Ritter Arena to watch the Gophers play. You get a lot of Goldie time at Ritter Arena, too, which the kids absolutely love. Check all of that out at gophersports.com. Thanks again to Coach Frost. Thanks again to Schuler Shoes. And thanks again to you for listening to the Golden Gopher Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.
The Golden Gopher Podcast has been brought to you by Schuler Shoes, where comfort and style are always in step. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gopher Sports Network.